Hi, and welcome back to Ronnie the Reader. This is a February wrap up of the books and TV shows that I read and watched in the month of February. I only read 4 things in the month of February, but I was watching not a lot of TV, but a high volume of TV, I guess you could say, and that will make more sense when I get into, I guess, the shows that I did watch. But yeah, so I only read 4 things. So I'm going to go through those, kind of give you, summary, synopsis, what I thought, my rating on all of those, and then we'll jump into the TV show kind of wrap up portion of this. So let's jump in. The first thing that I finished in the month of February is a graphic novel. It is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Volume 2. This has a lot of story contributors and illustrators to it, but the main story editor and who is attributed to it on Goodreads at least is Kyle Higgins. But this is, like I said, Volume 2 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. It is a graphic novel version of the TV show. It's like a separate canon though, so it doesn't follow the TV show necessarily. It's the same sort of characters that we are introduced to if you're familiar with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So this I really enjoyed. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. This is Volume 2, and we are picking up and following our characters where we left them in Volume 1. And today I actually just picked up Volumes 3 through 8. So definitely really enjoying this. 5 out of 5 stars. I think that this is a good kind of series for even if you are not a Power Rangers fan. I think it is just a fun. If you are a Power Rangers fan and grew up watching it and enjoy, the show when you were a kid, I think you would enjoy this now as an adult. It's more modern. It's a little bit more dark. It's not exactly graphic, I would say, but it doesn't have that kid feeling. It's definitely made for older teens and adults to enjoy. So excited to jump into the rest of this series. And yeah, 5 out of 5 stars. Definitely recommend. My favorite thing that I read this month, for sure. The second book that I finished this month is a really hyped up one. It is The Housemaid by Frida McFadden, which this might be her first book. I'm actually not sure of the publication order of Frida McFadden's books, but The Housemaid, I would say, is probably her most popular. Definitely very hyped. It's following a character named Millie who gets a job as a housemaid for the Winchesters. Millie is a down on her luck young girl looking for a quick kind of cash grab type of job, and the Winchesters need someone desperately to join them. So it's kind of your recipe for disaster for all things thriller, mystery, setup. And ultimately, this was a 3.5 star-ish for me. I thought that the book was really readable. I read it all in one day, so kind of flew through it completely. But ultimately, the story feels very cliched. It's very predictable. I've read this same book so many different times. So because of that, I can see why this book in particular got really popular, on TikTok and on social media, just because I feel like these are the kinds of books that typically do go viral from those that are maybe a little bit more of a romance reader, but are dabbling into the mystery thriller genre. Because I would say the majority of kind of that influencer space out there is obviously the biggest portion is those who kind of read those romance, the romanticities, the dark romance, kind of venturing into the psychological thriller side. So I'm loving that so many people love this book and it's getting them into the mystery thriller genre. But for me, who has read hundreds of mystery thriller books at this point in my life and has, seen a lot, this wasn't anything shocking or surprising. Very readable. The writing was perfectly serviceable, just not something that was going to blow my mind. So it's a 3 star. It's not bad. I definitely recommend it if you are wanting to get into mystery thrillers or if you're interested in Frida McFadden. Although this probably will be my only read from her, at least for a while. Maybe I'll pick up another one in the future to try her out again. But for now, this would be where I'm stopping, my starting and stopping point with Frida McFadden. All right, the third book that I finished in the month was The Soulmate by Sally Hepworth. I got this from the library, and this is following a young couple named Gabe and Pippa. It is set in Australia, as Sally Hepworth is an Australian author, and Gabe and Pippa live on these cliffs in Australia, and basically, the setup of the story is that while they've lived there, a couple of people have gone to the cliffs to ultimately make a final decision for themselves and their lives, and Gabe has managed to kind of talk these people down from that decision. And then one day a woman kind of shows up, Gabe goes out, and she ends up leaping and jumping off of the cliff, and then the story kind of goes from there as far as who is this woman? How did she end up there? What is her connection to Gabe and Pippa? Or was it just a random kind of incident? What are Gabe and Pippa keeping from each other? And ultimately, this was a 3 out of 5 star for me once again. So very just baseline and very similar to The Housemaid. I feel like Sally Hepworth, while her stories are fun and engaging, I gave The Mother-in-Law 5 stars when I read that, which was my first read by her. They have all felt very much the same since I've read them, but they're still just really readable, really enjoyable, very kind of popcorn thriller, popcorn read-esque. Because of that, I think I probably won't pick up another Sally Hepworth for a little bit, but this one, I mean, it's just a fun read. Ultimately, like the Soulmate is a story that is told in multiple points of view, which is one of my favorite things in just books in general. And while there are some interesting twists and turns, and definitely some wild moments that I didn't see coming, ultimately it was just very fine. I was very whelmed. I was not underwhelmed. I was not overwhelmed. I was just whelmed and enjoyed. I read it physically and listened to it as an audiobook, so I was kind of going back and forth in that, and it was perfectly fine. The audiobook narrators do a good job because there is a couple of narrators for this audiobook. So yeah, I would say if you are once again newer into the mystery thriller genre, Sally Hepworth is a great person to start with because her stories are a little bit more inventive sometimes with the setup, and they're much more focused on the character dynamics, specifically within a family setting typically. So I think if you're coming from like the literary fiction genre or the romance genre or something like that, that you would really enjoy The Soulmate and other Sally Hepworths. All right, and the last book that I read in the month of February, we're already to the last one, is a big one, but only took me about 2 days, and that is Obsidio by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is book 3 in the Illuminae files, which is a young adult science fiction fantasy series that was really popular from like 2015 to like 2018, I think is when they were being published and released. So almost 10 years ago now at this point is kind of when they were starting to pop off. I read Illuminae and Gemina a long time ago, maybe in like 2020 or 2021. Maybe Gemina was 2022, but I really was not impressed by Gemina. I really loved Illuminae. I thought it was so fun, so inventive. All of these books are told in more of like a mixed media format. So here, I will kind of flip through, but you can kind of see that the book is not like strictly narrative driven. It's more like a dossier. Essentially, you are reading the Illuminae files, these files that are being compiled because of just the nature of the story. I don't want to say too much. Illuminae is basically following these two characters, Katie and Ezra, after their planet is invaded and they end up separated. And then Gemina and Obsidio introduce more characters that are connected to that plot line that we set up of the kind of invasion of this colony named Carenza 4. So Obsidio, I gave 3 stars. Illuminae was 4 stars, Gemina was like a 2-star, and Obsidio was 3 stars. So very kind of all over the place. All 3 of the books are essentially the same story told again, where you are introduced to kind of 2 main characters. Typically a romantic bond is bonding these characters, and then you follow them throughout their journey as this invasion of Carenza has affected them and their life. Obsidio was a little bit more interesting to me than Gemina. I cared definitely more about our characters in here, and all of the characters from Illuminae and Gemina are present in Obsidio because this is kind of wrapping up the stories. I was really ready to give this a 4-star because of the ending. What I thought it was going to do, I thought was really bold and gutsy for a YA, and ultimately that was not the case. So I dropped it back down to a 3-star. Ultimately, I think this book would have been much more successful if it was written as an epic adult like space opera. I love the originality of telling it in kind of a multimedia format, and I did listen to portions of this as an audiobook as well, and I love the audiobooks. I did that for Illuminae and Gemina. And while the story, like I said, the storytelling mechanic is interesting, the actual story itself is just very much what you would expect from kind of a YA science fiction fantasy-esque novel. So it's nothing super special, but I would love stories like this. Love, absolutely love the idea of this, and I would definitely be interested in reading other ones like this. I really didn't know if I was going to ever read Obsidio, but I am glad that I finished the series. I got this from the library. I saw it there and I was like, oh, let me just pick this up. It will be a quick read. Even though it's over 600 pages, it goes by really quickly because of the multimedia format of it. So yeah, ultimately, 3-star, something that was fun and fine to read, but not something that I think is my new favorite. Although I know a lot of people do ultimately love the series. So I would check it out if you are a science fiction fan, especially if you are getting into science fiction and want a little bit of an easier entry point. This is great for that. So those are all of the books that I read. Now I want to talk briefly about some of the TV shows that I watched in this month. I guess you could say finish 2 shows and I'm in the middle of one, although I think technically I'm in the middle of all 3. So I have been wanting to watch the show Yellow Jackets for a really long time, and I finally decided to start watching it this month, and I ended up binging the entire show, although that technically isn't true, because season 3 is currently airing, which I did not know when I started the show. I think when I'm filming this, up to episode 4 is out for season 3. And ultimately, this show, like if I'm giving it the same kind of ratings as like books, is a 5 out of 5. I really want to rewatch it because I binged it so quickly. I watched season 1 all in one day, just all 10 episodes straight back to back to back. I was sick from work and needed something to do, and so I just binged it all. And then I did take season 2 a little bit slower, and obviously season 3 is a week to week basis now. But yeah, this show is so good. If you're not familiar, it's basically a show about this girls' soccer team who is traveling to a national championship, and their plane ends up crashing in the wilderness. I think it's the Canadian wilderness. And then they are stuck out there for a period of time and resort to some, how do we say, not so savory methods to survive. And then there's also an adult storyline following some of the survivors of this kind of traumatic experience. So really fun, very brutal, very entertaining. Ultimately, this is a show that I am so happy to have started and have become really, really obsessed with, and I've been loving reading like theories about it on Reddit. And while I'm upset that it took me this long to get into it, I'm glad that I had so much of the show to binge, and now waiting week to week for season 3, and then once season 3 ends, having to wait for season 4 probably will be agonizing. But if you've not yet watched the show, I cannot recommend it enough. I absolutely loved it. The second show that I really kind of became obsessed with, which is just so funny because I feel like it's such the opposite end of Yellow Jackets, is School Spirits, which is on Paramount Plus as well. This is a it's like an adult show, I guess like young adult, show on Paramount Plus about Maddie, our main character, who ends up dying in the school that she's attending and becomes a ghost. And there are other ghosts around, but she can communicate with one of her friends in the living world. So the first season is kind of following the mystery of what happened to Maddie, because she doesn't remember how she died and her body has not been located as of yet. So it's a really interesting story. There's stupid humor. Some of these actors, like Peyton List, our main actor, and one of the other main actors who plays the character Wally, are both from Disney. So it has a little bit of that Disney Channel vibe, but definitely I think the show has really found its footing now in season 2, and I think the actors have improved a lot. It's a young cast, so I think you can really see the progression of their acting thus far. And the characters are really fun and lovable, finding out the backstories of some of these ghosts and how they've died, and kind of their like trauma behind that has been fun and interesting to explore. So yeah, definitely have enjoyed this one so far. Also, this one is airing season 2 right now, so I think up to episode 6 or 7 is out when I'm filming this, and I think there's going to be 8 episodes in season 2. So almost done this one. All right, the last show that I started watching but haven't finished because I just really haven't gotten into it as much as I got into Yellow Jackets or School Spirits was based off a true story, which stars Kaylee Cuoco, who I absolutely love. I've loved her since Really Charmed and 8 Simple Rules. Like, okay, girl. And I've seen Big Bang Theory. While it's, not the funniest show in the world, I do chuckle at some moments, and I do enjoy Kaylee Cuoco, and she's really good in this show. The other lead is Chris Messina, who is also really fun. But ultimately, I don't know. I think I'm struggling to get into the show because it's much more of like that comedy focused than the other things I've been watching, which are much more drama focused and really kind of mystery driven. Like, I don't know, Based on a True Story is basically following these two main characters to start a podcast about a serial killer. And so there's more to it. Like, I don't know what the synopsis says, but they know who the serial killer is. So it's not necessarily like a mystery. You're kind of figuring out what's going on and who is this killer. And like I said, it's much more of a comedy series. So I think I'm on episode 6 maybe of season 1. And I think there's like 10 episodes per season. I think season 2 has also just come out recently. So yeah, I think I'll jump back into this one soon, but taking a little bit of a break from it. But I've enjoyed it so far. So it's like a 4 out of 5 right now. All right, and that is everything for me for the month of February. That's everything I read, everything I watched. So definitely let me know what you have read / watched in this month, what kind of, some of your favorites. I think my favorite thing by far is Yellow Jackets. The reading this month has been a little bit slow, a little bit of a letdown, especially the novels I've been picking. I had such a fantastic January. I just feel like I'm in a little bit of a slump as far as my reading. I just need some new books to really kick me into, another hyperactive reading sprint where I was loving everything. But I don't know. We'll see. I have some other books out from the library currently. I, of course, still have some owned books. So we'll see how March goes. I'm hopeful. But yeah, that's everything for the month of February. So thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you've read and what your favorite thing was in the month of February that you read or watched, I guess. And until next time, I will talk to you soon. Bye.